The emergency sirens shattered the pre-dawn quiet of Outpost 7, dragging Dr. Sarah Chen from a fitful sleep. She was already moving before the announcement finished echoing through the corridor. Unknown vessels entering orbit. All personnel to emergency stations. 15 years as a trauma surgeon had taught Sarah to wake instantly, completely. She grabbed her medical kit and sprinted toward the infirmary, her mind racing through triage protocols. The outpost housed over 300 civilians, researchers, engineers, and their families. They weren't prepared for an attack. The first explosions rocked the facility as she reached the medical bay. Through reinforced windows, she watched antimatter beams slice through the dawn sky, targeting the outpost's defensive systems. The ships were massive, their hulls covered in crystalline formations that seemed to absorb light itself. Kryvax warships, Dr. Marcus said grimly, joining her at the window. They'd been expanding aggressively since destroying the Meridian homeworld, but I never thought they'd strike this far into Earth territory. Sarah's reply was cut short by the arrival of the first casualties. She lost herself in the familiar rhythm of emergency medicine. Assess, stabilize, move to the next patient. Hours blurred together as more wounded arrived, both military and civilian. The outpost's shields were failing. Then she heard it, a sound that cut through the chaos of the infirmary. Not quite a cry, more like crystal chimes in a storm. Sarah found herself moving toward the sound before she could process why. In a dark corner of the receiving area, partially hidden behind fallen debris, she found its source. The alien child was small, perhaps equivalent to a human 8-year-old. Its crystalline skin shifted colors like oil on water, currently cycling through patterns of distress. One of its 4 arms was clearly broken, and there was a deep gash across its torso that leaked luminescent fluid. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. A Meridian child, one of the refugees from the Kryvax genocide. The outpost had been scheduled to receive survivors, but the transport wasn't due for another week. This one must have arrived early, somehow separated from its group. Dr. Chen, Marcus called out. Evacuation orders just came through. We need to move all mobile patients to the emergency shuttles immediately. Sarah looked down at the injured child, who had gone still at the sound of Marcus's voice. Its skin had shifted to mirror the gray of the floor, a Meridian defense mechanism. But those enormous eyes, with their fractal patterns of gold and silver, remained fixed on Sarah's face. I'll be right there, she called back, already pulling supplies from her kit. The evacuation order meant they were abandoning the outpost. Standard protocol required leaving any non-human casualties behind to ensure maximum space for Earth citizens. Sarah had never been very good at following protocol when it conflicted with her oath as a doctor. She worked quickly, using a portable bone knitter on the broken arm and applying regenerative gel to the gash. The child remained perfectly still, only the rapid color shifts across its skin betraying its pain and fear. Sarah kept up a quiet stream of reassurance, even though she wasn't sure the child could understand her. I'm going to help you, she whispered, carefully lifting the small form. But we need to move fast and quiet. Can you do that for me? The child's skin rippled once, settling into a pattern that matched Sarah's medical uniform. She chose to take that as agreement. The evacuation was chaos, but Sarah had spent years memorizing the outpost's layout. She took the maintenance corridors, avoiding the main routes where evacuees were rushing toward the shuttles. The child in her arms weighed almost nothing, its crystalline body far lighter than its human equivalent. They were nearly to the emergency medical shuttle when another explosion rocked the facility. Sarah stumbled, shielding the child as debris rained down around them. Through a newly formed crack in the ceiling, she caught a glimpse of one of the Kryvax ships. It was moving into position directly above them. The child trembled, its skin turning mirror bright. In its reflection, Sarah saw her own face, set with determination. She had no idea why the Kryvax were here, what they wanted. But she knew with absolute certainty that she would not let them harm this child. Almost there, she breathed, ducking through a maintenance hatch. Just hold on. Behind them, the outpost's remaining defenses opened fire on the Kryvax ship. Ahead lay the medical shuttle, their best chance at survival. And between them and safety stood a choice, one that would change not only their lives, but potentially the course of two civilizations. Sarah Chen held the alien child closer and ran toward that future, one carefully chosen step at a time. The medical shuttle's emergency lighting cast everything in a pale blue glow as Sarah worked to secure her unusual patient. The child's crystalline skin had taken on the same hue, making it almost invisible against the medical bay's sterile surfaces. Only those fractal pattern eyes, still tracking Sarah's every movement, gave away its position. Primary systems online, the shuttle's AI announced. Warning, unauthorized life form detected. Protocol requires. Override Protocol Alpha 7 Medical. Sarah interrupted, not looking up from where she was adjusting the biometric scanner to account for the child's alien physiology. Emergency situation. Patient under my direct care. There was a pause before the AI responded. Override accepted. However, this incident will be logged. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Log away. Right now, we need to focus on getting out of here alive. She turned to her patient, speaking slowly and clearly. I'm going to give you something for the pain. Can you understand me? The child's skin rippled with patterns of light. And then, to Sarah's astonishment, it spoke. The voice was like wind through crystal chimes, but the words were clear English. I understand. The translation matrix takes time to attune. You can speak our language? Sarah asked, carefully administering the painkiller through a patch rather than risk an injection into the crystalline skin. All meridians. Learn. The child's colors shifted to deeper blues, which Sarah was beginning to recognize as signs of distress. We had to. After they came. After they. The patterns fractured, becoming chaotic. Shay, Sarah soothed, recognizing the onset of trauma response. You don't have to talk about that now. Can you tell me your name instead? The child's skin settled slightly. In your sounds? Echo. Because my song patterns create repetitions. Echo. Sarah repeated softly. I'm Sarah. And I promise you, Echo, I'm going to keep you safe. The shuttle shuddered as another explosion rocked the outpost. Through the viewport, Sarah watched as one of the facility's defensive towers collapsed. The Kryvax ships were systematically destroying everything, using a precision that spoke of something more targeted than simple conquest. Warning, the AI announced. Multiple hostile vessels detected on approach vector. Launch window closing in 45 seconds. Sarah strapped herself into the pilot's seat. She was no military pilot. This is going to sound strange, she told Echo, but I need you to sing. Can you do that? The same resonance pattern their ships use to track you, but stronger. Echo's skin swirled with patterns of confusion and fear. But that will lead them right to us. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes, the best way to escape a predator is to give them exactly what they're looking for, until it becomes too much to handle. She began rerouting power from non-essential systems to the medical bay's cellular regeneration unit. If she was right about the interaction between meridian crystal harmonics and the regeneration field's quantum matrix, they might just survive the next few minutes. If she was wrong, well, at least they'd go down fighting. And Sarah Chen had never been one to go quietly against protocol. The medical shuttle's regeneration unit hummed at a frequency that made Sarah's teeth ache. She bypassed every safety protocol, pushing the quantum matrix far beyond its designed limits. Echo lay in the center of the modified field, the child's crystalline form pulsing with increasingly complex patterns of light and color. Ready? Sarah asked, her hand hovering over the final control. Through the viewport, she could see 3 Kryvax ships converging on their position. They'd taken the bait, following Echo's amplified resonance signal directly to them. Echo's voice came back strained but determined. Ready. But Sarah, this could destroy me. The resonance cascade. I won't let that happen. Sarah cut in firmly. She'd spent the last 10 minutes explaining to Echo exactly how the modified regeneration field would protect the child's crystalline matrix during what they were about to attempt. But she understood the fear. What they were trying shouldn't be possible. Then again, impossible things were becoming something of a specialty. Sarah activated the final sequence. Echo began to sing. The sound defied human description. Pure crystalline tones that seemed to exist in dimensions beyond normal space. The regeneration field captured each note, amplifying and reflecting it back in precisely calculated patterns. Echo's body became a prism of light and sound, each facet of the child's crystalline form adding new layers to the harmonic cascade. On her scanner, Sarah watched the Kryvax ship's reactions. Their crystal-based systems were attempting to lock onto Echo's signal, just as they had used this resonance tracking to hunt down Meridian refugees across the galaxy. But this time, the signal was too strong, too complex, feeding back into their own systems in an ever-escalating loop. The first ship's crystals began to fracture. "Hold on," Sarah urged, dividing her attention between Echo's vital signs and the approaching ships. The child's crystalline structure was starting to show signs of stress, microfractures appearing and being instantly healed by the regeneration field. Just a little longer. The second ship's systems failed catastrophically, its crystal arrays shattering in a cascade of light. The third ship attempted to retreat, but the resonance pattern had already infected its systems. Within moments, all three vessels hung dead in space, their crystal technology reduced to inert mineral. Sarah immediately shut down the modified field. "Echo, talk to me, little one." For a terrifying moment, there was no response. Then Echo's surface rippled, colors flowing like aurora borealis across crystal plains. That was amazing. Did you see what we did?" Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She ran a quick diagnostic, confirming that the regeneration field had prevented any permanent damage to Echo's crystalline matrix. "We did it, but we're not safe yet. Those ships were just the advance force." A new alarm cut through the cabin. Sarah's eyes snapped to the scanner. A massive ship had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above them, at least 20 times the size of the vessels they'd disabled. "No," Echo whispered, skin going transparency pale. "That's the Harbinger, the ship that led the attack on our homeworld." Sarah's mind raced. The regenerance cascade trick wouldn't work again. A ship that size would have redundant systems, safeguards against the very feedback loop they'd exploited. They needed a new plan. She began to plot a course toward the system's asteroid belt. If they could reach it before the Harbinger got a lock on them, the mineral-rich rocks might mask Echo's signature long enough to... "Sarah," Echo's voice had taken on a strange tone. "I need to show you something about why they're really hunting us, why they destroyed our world." The child's crystalline form began to shift in ways Sarah hadn't seen before, complex geometric patterns emerging and collapsing like living fractals. And in those patterns, Sarah saw images, memories, of the Meridian homeworld before its destruction, of discoveries that changed everything she thought she knew about the universe. "Your people," Sarah breathed, understanding dawning. "You weren't just refugees. You were protecting something the Kryvax would do anything to possess." Echo's skin swirled with patterns of affirmation and fear. The knowledge. The Psalms of creation itself. Each Meridian child carries a fragment, passed down through generations. But I carry the key to unlocking it all. The Harbinger's shadow fell across their shuttle like an eclipse. Sarah looked at the impossible child before her, then at the massive ship bearing down on them. They couldn't run forever, but maybe they didn't have to. "Echo," she said slowly, an idea forming. "Tell me more about these songs of creation, and about how the Kryvax corrupted your people's crystal technology to make their weapons." Because Sarah Chen was starting to realize that sometimes the best way to heal something wasn't to run from the disease, but to understand it completely enough to find its cure, even if that meant staring down an empire to do it. The Harbinger's tractor beam caught them just as Sarah finished adapting the medical shuttle systems according to Echo's instructions. The massive ship drew them inexorably toward its crystalline docking bay, the corrupted technology pulsing with sickly light. "Are you certain about this?" Sarah asked, watching Echo make final adjustments to the crystalline patterns flowing across the child's skin. "Once we're inside, there's no turning back." Echo's surface rippled with determination. The songs of creation weren't meant to destroy. The Kryvax, they took our technology, our crystal sense, and twisted it, made weapons from what should have brought harmony. The child's voice chimed with conviction. "But you showed me something, Sarah. Sometimes healing means facing the source of corruption directly." The docking bay swallowed them whole. Sarah felt the shuttle shudder as magnetic clamps engage. Through the viewport, she could see armed figures approaching. Kryvax soldiers in crystalline armor that seemed to absorb light itself. "Remember," Sarah whispered, "no matter what happens, stay in the regeneration field's radius. I've modified it based on your specifications, but it's still experimental. Without it, we'd both be vulnerable to their corrupted resonance." Echo finished. "I understand. And Sarah, thank you for believing in me." Before Sarah could respond, the shuttle's hatch was forced open. Kryvax soldiers poured in, their crystalline weapons trained on both occupants. Sarah raised her hand slowly, careful to keep her movements non-threatening. She'd expected their arrival, but the reality of facing them was another matter entirely. The Kryvax were tall, their bodies covered in organic armor that seemed to grow directly from their flesh. Where their eyes should have been, they had clusters of crystalline sensors that shifted and realigned constantly. Sarah remembered Echo's explanation. They had modified themselves with corrupted meridian technology, becoming something neither fully organic nor purely crystalline. "The Meridian child will come with us," the lead soldier announced, its voice resonating through the crystal growths that served as its vocal apparatus. "The human will be terminated." "I think not," a new voice rang out. And suddenly, the docking bay erupted in chaos. Figures in stealth suits materialized around them, their weapons already firing. But instead of conventional ammunition, they released bursts of pure harmonics that shattered the Kryvax's crystalline components. The soldiers screamed, their corrupted technology turning against them. "Earth Special Operations," one of the figures announced, pulling off their helmet to reveal a scared face with keen eyes. "Commander Helen Martinez, we've been tracking the Kryvax fleet since they destroyed our outpost." She looked at Sarah with grudging respect. "Though I have to admit, Dr. Chen, you've led us on quite a chase." Sarah's mind raced to process this development. "How did you find you?" Martine smiled grimly. "We've been studying the Kryvax for months. When they suddenly changed course to attack a civilian outpost, we knew they must have detected something important." Her gaze shifted to Echo. "Or someone." More special operations teams were securing the docking bay, using harmonic weapons that seemed specifically designed to counter Kryvax technology. But Sarah could see from Echo's increasingly agitated color patterns that something was wrong. "Commander," Sarah said urgently, "we appreciate the rescue, but you don't understand what's really at stake here. The Kryvax, they're not just hunting Echo. They're trying to capture the key to Meridian crystal technology itself. Knowledge that could either heal their corruption or give them power beyond imagination." Martinez's expression hardened. "All the more reason to get you both out of here. We'll scuttle this ship and—" "No." Echo's voice rang out with such force that every crystal surface in the docking bay resonated in response. "We can't leave. Not yet." The child's form was shifting, complex patterns emerging that made Sarah's eyes water trying to follow them. "The corruption. It's spreading. The songs of creation are being twisted further with each passing moment. If we don't stop it here, now, there won't be anything left to save." Sarah looked at the special operations teams with their harmonic weapons, then at the massive ship around them with its corrupted crystal technology. An idea began to form, dangerous, possibly suicidal, but potentially their only chance. "Commander Martinez," she said slowly, "how would you like to help us perform surgery on a crystal dreadnought?" The heart of the Harbinger pulsed with sickly light, its massive crystal core writhing with corrupted energy. Sarah, Echo, and Commander Martinez stood before it, protected by a modified version of the regeneration field that now encompassed their small team. Around them, the Special Operations Forces held off waves of Kryvax soldiers, their harmonic weapons creating a symphony of controlled destruction. "Their entire ship is one giant crystal matrix," Martinez observed, checking readings on her tactical display. "If we can purify the core, then the healing resonance will spread throughout their entire fleet," Sarah finished. She looked at Echo, whose crystalline form was vibrating with barely contained energy. "But the corruption runs deep. This won't be like healing a simple fracture." Echo's surface swirled with complex patterns. The songs of creation were meant to bring harmony, not destruction. But the Kryvax, they feared death so much they were willing to corrupt everything we held sacred to escape it. The child's voice chimed with determination. "I carry the original frequency, the pure song, but I can't generate enough power alone." "You won't have to," Sarah said, activating the modified medical equipment they'd brought from the shuttle. "Commander, are your teams in position?" Martinez nodded grimly. "All harmonic weapons are synchronized to Echo's frequency." "But Doc, are you sure about this? The energy required, it could kill you both." Sarah's hands moved surely over the equipment, making final adjustments. Years of surgical experience had taught her that sometimes healing required causing pain first, but there was always a precise balance to be struck. Echo's crystalline matrix can channel the energy. The regeneration field will protect us. Mostly. A massive explosion rocked the ship. Through her comm, Sarah heard one of Martinez's teams. "More Kryvax incoming. We can't hold them much longer." "Now or never," Martinez said, raising her weapon. "On your mark, Doc." Sarah knelt beside Echo, placing her hands on the child's crystalline surface. She could feel the vibrations running through both of them. Fear, determination, and something else. Hope. "Remember what we practiced, just like in the shuttle, but this time, we're not trying to destroy. We're trying to heal." Echo's skin rippled with acknowledgement. The child began to sing. The sound started softly, a pure crystalline tone that seemed to exist in dimensions beyond normal space. Sarah activated the modified regeneration field, linking it to Martinez's harmonic weapon network. The song grew stronger, echoing through the ship's crystal corridors. The Kryvax core responded violently, its corrupted resonance fighting against the pure frequency. Sarah felt the energy burning through her despite the regeneration field's protection, but she held on. Echo's song rose in intensity, layers of harmony building upon each other in mathematical precision. Kryvax soldiers burst into the chamber, but their weapons wouldn't fire. The crystalline technology in their armor was resonating with Echo's song, fighting against its own corruption. Sarah saw them fall to their knees, the organic crystal growths on their bodies beginning to change. The core's sickly light pulsed faster, fighting the purification. Echo's song reached impossible frequencies, the child's crystalline form glowing with internal light. Sarah's medical readouts were screaming warnings. Both their vital signs were critical. "Echo," she gasped through the pain. "You have to release it now. All of it." The child's voice rose to a crescendo that shattered human understanding of sound. The core exploded with light, not the sickly green of corruption, but a pure prismatic radiance that spread through the ship like a wave of crystal fire. Sarah felt the energy surge through her, expecting pain. But instead, there was only warmth. The regeneration field had collapsed, but they didn't need it anymore. The light washing over them carried only healing. When her vision cleared, Sarah saw that the core had transformed. The writhing, corrupted mass had become a structure of perfect geometric beauty, its light pure and steady. The Kryvax soldiers were changed too. The twisted crystal growths had reformed into graceful patterns that worked in harmony with their organic forms. Echo sagged in Sarah's arms, exhausted but alive. The child's surface rippled with weak but happy patterns. It worked. The song. It remembered its true purpose. Commander Martinez helped them both to their feet, her expression awed. "We're getting reports from all over the ship, the crystal systems. They're all purified. And we're receiving transmissions from the other Kryvax vessels. They're standing down." A deep resonance filled the chamber, different from Echo's song, but no longer corrupted. The Kryvax commander had entered, its crystalline sensors now shining with clear light. It knelt before them. "We forgot," it said, its voice holding new harmonies. "In our fear of death, we forgot that true immortality lies not in corrupting life, but in nurturing it." It looked at Echo, then at Sarah, a human doctor and a Meridian child. "You've shown us there is another way." Sarah looked at Echo, whose colors now danced with joy. "That's what healing is really about," she said softly. "Not just fixing what's broken, but remembering what it means to be whole." The light of a new day filtered through the Harbinger's now transparent crystal hull, creating rainbows where it struck Echo's surface. Sarah smiled, thinking of all the healing yet to come, and all the wonders that humans and aliens might achieve together when they chose to trust in each other's best natures. Echo's voice chimed with laughter, the sound pure and free. "Sarah, what happens now?" She hugged the child close, feeling the warm resonance of healthy crystal against her skin. Now we build something new, together." Around them, the purified heart of the Harbinger pulsed with steady light, its song joining with Echo's in a harmony that spoke of hope, of healing, and of a future where the boundaries between species were bridges rather than barriers. It was a song that would echo across the stars, carrying a simple truth, that sometimes the greatest victories come not from overpowering what we fear, but from having the courage to heal it instead.